Hi guys, welcome back. And today I'm very excited because I wanted to introduce to you guys my new baby. Yes, I have finally bit the bullet and ventured into film photography. So the camera I've got here is the Nikon FM, and this is, I think, when I looked up the serial number, it was created between 1977 and 1978. So this is roughly about a 49 or 48-year-old camera. Yes. I ordered it from eBay. I've done a bit of research, quote unquote, watching a lot of YouTube videos, going through Reddit, looking at the products in eBay. And I actually decided to go with eBay. There were a few places here in Sydney that sold vintage camera, pre-loved vintage camera. There's a few online places as well as Facebook Marketplace. But if I'm being honest, I don't really trust the sellers there. So I decided that the way to do it is to buy it from Japan, even if it's from eBay. Because what I found with my experience with purchasing lenses, cameras, or even practically anything from eBay that's coming from Japan, I've always found that the way they rank their items are of higher standard than how I would rank it. Like this particular one is ranked as excellent +5, not near mint, not mint condition, right? But when I looked at it, it actually had very little wear on it, and I had a look at, first of all, it also came with this leather half case for the body, but also an actual leather case from like the 1970s to protect this. It also came with the Nikon strap, the original Nikon strap that this came with, but that felt a little bit too abrasive for my neck. It's one of those flat, thin ones, but it just wasn't comfortable for me to wear, so I replaced it with one of these ones that I've had lying around. So anyway, I bought the Nikon FM with the 50mm f1.4 lens. So I just had to look it up on eBay again just to make sure I'm giving you the right information. But yeah, so it has the, so it's the Nikon FM Silver SLR 35mm film camera, and it came with a Nikkor AI 50mm f1.4 lens. This was sold by the company called Japan Camera Selection, and I paid what is equivalent to 310 Australian dollars, but it actually came up to about $375, including the taxes and the shipping for it and the conversion from US dollars. Because when you buy products from Japan through eBay, it's always priced with the US currency. So after conversion, charges with my with PayPal and all that stuff, I paid almost $375 for the whole lot: the lens, the camera, the strap, and the leather case. In fact, the leather case was in pristine condition, and then 30 minutes after I've taken it out, I promptly dropped it. Yes, the camera. without this case here, just this one. And what happened was it fell on its side, hitting the button, the snap button on the leather case. And so now I can't really put that back on, but that's a minor inconvenience. The camera itself was spotless. The only other damage that I could find was on the lens cap, because I had it slung on my left shoulder, but the way the original strap wraps through, I didn't do it properly. So as I was moving around, the strap was sort of like coming undone. And then the next thing I knew, from waist level, I heard bang, and the camera was on the ground, on concrete, mind you, out in the street. So anyway, but it was, yeah, like nothing happened to the lens, nothing happened to the camera itself. I did notice though that after that, I started seeing some dust within the prism. It doesn't affect the image quality at all. Like you can't even tell that it's there. Like when I look into the viewfinder, I can see it there. There's like a speck of dust, or probably a particle from the internal part of the prism that came loose. But when I had the film developed, it was not there. Like you can't see it. It's not there. So speaking of film, my first roll is from Kodak Gold. This is the Kodak Gold 200. It has 36 exposures, and I got this from Amazon on a 3-pack, which is a bit more affordable than buying it on like the brick and mortar camera shops over here in Sydney. And I found a developing shop here in Sydney around the Haymarket area on Sussex Street that only charges like $17 for each roll of film that they develop. They do the C41 developing. And yeah, here are some of the shots that I got from my first roll of film. Now I'm going to admit that when I put the first film roll in the camera, I didn't know what I was doing. I watched YouTube videos that demonstrated how to actually install the film into the camera. But you know, when it's your first time, you're always kind of like nervous and awkward. Like I don't know if the roll inside actually caught the film so that it can move forward. Every time I would make adjustments with this lever, I pray that it's actually working and that it's not just stuck in its place inside. So the thing is, I didn't know what the pictures would look like, or even if I was able to take any photos. So forgive me if the photos aren't great, okay? Now, the other thing that I had decided on as soon as I put in that first film roll was that it was going to be an experimental roll, because to be honest with you, I have never used a camera like this before. I've always had a digital camera. Like even my very first DSLR, I had the Nikon D60, and then I upgraded to the D90 before I moved to Canon. Yeah, so it was all new to me, and I've made peace with it. I've decided, okay, first roll of film is going to be experiments. This is like our trial. This is like, are we going to be able to take good photos, right? Now, I am not completely unfamiliar with how an SLR works because I've used a DSLR before. And also I'm not completely unfamiliar with how a camera like this works because I have the newer generation ZF. Okay, only difference is this is a mirrorless camera, but like in terms of the build, the dials and all that, they're fairly similar. In fact, this the Nikon ZF is actually patterned against the FM. I think it's the FM2, not necessarily the FM, but yeah, one of them. So if you look at them side by side, they look the same, right? So yeah, I was already kind of familiar with how the ergonomics of the camera was. I also have a few manual lenses that I adapt to my ZF that are now obviously compatible with my FM. So apart from the 50mm that I have here, I also have a 20mm and an 85mm, and the most recent one that came along with this, I bought it at the same time but not from the same seller, was the 70 to 300mm. I intend to use that when the blood moon happens in the beginning of March. But anyway, I digress, right? So I now have this lens and this camera, and I've been taking it around. It's really good build quality. It's quite substantial in weight. My understanding is this is a full metal camera. I've put in the tab of the film at the back so I know which film I've got in there, because after I had the first roll of film developed, I fell in love with it, and now I want to try different film stocks. So I've got the Kodak Color Plus 36 exposures, ISO 200, and this one is probably the cheapest film stock I have seen so far, which is the Fujifilm 400. This is also 36 exposures and obviously ISO 400. Here's the thing, until I learned, until I started, like I've always been seeing like the numbers on the boxes, and I never really understood what that meant until I realized after watching so many YouTube videos that that actually is the setting that you're supposed to put on your ISO. So you look at your film box, it'll tell you what the ISO should be. So in this case, this is a 200. In this case, this is a 400. So I have to adjust my ISO to 200. Now, older cameras actually refer to it as ASA, not ISO. So they are the same thing. Okay? Just for anyone who is completely new to this, that's what that means. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me today. I will film a separate video talking about the different dials on this and how it feels after I've gone through my second roll of film.